The New York Islanders' top prospect has a major decision to make. We'll talk about the choices and how it'll impact the team. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. We've got a lot to discuss, including a big decision for Cole Eiserman, a suspension by the NHL for the headshot to Adam Pelech, and we'll preview tonight's game against the Washington Capitals, the home finale for the New York Islanders this season. We're going to start with Cole Eiserman. And over the weekend, the Frozen Four took place, and Cole Eiserman's team made it all the way to the finals, which was very impressive. And Eiserman continued to play well, but Boston University, where Eiserman just finished up his freshman year, ended up losing in the final of the Frozen Four to Western Michigan by a score of 6-2. So the final numbers for Eiserman in his freshman year at BU, 25 goals, 36 points. So 25 goals, 11 assists, and not a bad first year for the Islanders' top prospect. Now, that's a Cy Young Award kind of numbers, 25 goals, 11 assists. But to get 25 goals as a freshman is a very impressive number at the collegiate level, where teams typically play 30, 35, maybe 40 games a season. And to put it in perspective, Eiserman was 5th in the entire NCAA Division I in goals scored, 5 behind the leader, which is Capitals prospect Ryan Leonard. So no doubt goal scoring, at least at the collegiate level, not an issue for Cole Eiserman. He is one of the better goal scorers in the NCAA. The question is, what does he do now? And, you know, the first decision that Eiserman has to make is, does he come back for another collegiate season and essentially stay at BU for his sophomore year, or does he decide to turn pro next season? And the fact of the matter is that if he decides to turn pro, then the question is, what are the odds that he would be a New York Islander next year rather than being down at Bridgeport playing at the AHL level? And everydayers, you will remember we've talked about the mess that Bridgeport is, and tomorrow we will have our farm report on the Bridgeport Islanders. They just set a dubious record for the worst home record or fewest home wins in a season in AHL history. So obviously, the way things are right now, having him go to Bridgeport comes with a lot of risks, because Bridgeport has just not been a very good location for developing NHL prospects. Now, if he stays in BU, he will be coached by Jay Pandolfo, who is a former New York Islander, a former New Jersey Devil, somebody that Lou Lamoriello knows quite well, and I think would be comfortable having Pandolfo continue to coach and develop Eiserman. The big question for Eiserman is this: we know he can shoot the puck. We know he can score goals. Obviously, he's not going to score as easily at the AHL or NHL level as he did in college. So goal scoring, generally speaking, is not the issue for Cole Eiserman. The issue for Cole Eiserman is this. Does he do the things you need to do away from the puck? Does he play defense? Does he back check? Does he pick up his man? Does he pass well? Does he not cherry pick and just hope for a scoring chance? And I think the answer that we got over the course of his freshman year is he's improving in those areas, but they are still things he needs to work on when it comes to, when he's not shooting the puck, how is he helping, or maybe more specifically, how is he not hurting his team? And look, he performed well in a more limited role at World Juniors in December and January, where he was a power play specialist and got occasional shifts on the fourth line. You didn't hear him complain. He played his role. He did what he needed to do, and he contributed at the World Juniors. But again, keep in mind that he was still a fourth line or even a reserve kind of a player where he was rotating in on the fourth line. So obviously there were other players at the World Juniors that the coaching staff was more comfortable putting on the ice than they were Cole Eiserman. So he responded well in a limited role, but was still given only a limited role. And I think both of those things speak to where he's at right now in his development. The coachability appears to be there. The willingness to learn and to grow appears to be there. There doesn't seem to be an ego thing where, he thinks that playing on the fourth line or being a power play specialist is beneath him. He's willing to do what coaches are asking him to do, but he also needs to get better at it before he's going to be ready to play in the National Hockey League and probably in the American Hockey League as well. If he decides to turn pro this offseason and then sign with the Islanders, you start to burn the first of 3 years in his entry-level deal. And again, since most scouting reports and most experts seem to think he needs more time to develop before being NHL ready, you burn a year or most of it in Bridgeport if he decides to turn pro right now. Now, again, is it still possible that he attends training camp with the Islanders in September and early October and just plays so well that they have to put him on the actual NHL roster? Theoretically, yes. But one thing we know about the Islanders and the organization and Patrick Waugh and Lou Lamoriello, they like to build from the goal out. Defense has always been more of a priority for this organization. And to have a guy who struggles in that area in a big way, who may need more time to be more physically mature, to put on a little bit of muscle and bulk to his frame, all of these things in my mind say that the better decision for Cole Eiserman this year is to stay in college at least one, possibly two, but at least one more year. And for those of you that may be a little bit impatient and want Cole Eiserman, the Islanders' top prospect, to be helping the team right now, just a couple of things. Number one, history shows, and Islander fans are well aware of what has happened to this organization when they rushed prospects to the NHL. And one example I'll give you is Josh Bailey, who was drafted 9th overall and never developed into the goal scorer that maybe he could have had the Islanders given him more time in the minors or or in juniors rather than rushing him immediately to the NHL. The other thing, and I think this is maybe more specific and a better reason why there's no rush with Cole Eiserman. If he goes back to school, okay, and even if BU goes all the way to the Frozen Four again and to the final, he could still join the Islanders very late in the season. And maybe if the Islanders are good enough for a playoff series, and you wouldn't have to necessarily burn that full year of his ELC. So that could be a win-win, where after the trade deadline, you end up adding a potentially potent goal scorer to the lineup, and that could benefit the Islanders down the stretch or in the playoffs or both if he proves he's ready without having to burn a full year of his entry-level contract, which is ideal for the team because it's cost controlled, and you end up getting a really talented player for a set low amount of money, relatively speaking, to hockey salaries these days. So I think overall, Eiserman staying in school makes the most sense for the Islanders, makes the most sense for Eiserman. And I think also one other factor is that we should be thinking long-term here. We still don't know whether or not Lou Lamoriello, Patrick Roy, whether either one of them are going to be back. Based on where the Islanders roster is right now, and a lot can happen between now and the start of the next season, it looks like the Islanders are going to be either retooling and trying to, maybe take a step back to take 2 steps forward with this aging roster to get out of the muddy middle, or they could be doubling down if Lou stays and tries to, squeak into 8th place in the conference again and just barely make the playoffs like he's been doing for the last 4 years or so. So if that's the case, Cole Eiserman, as a rookie, rushing him to the NHL, probably not going to move the needle that much. If you wait another year and the retool is taking effect and is starting to work and the team is making progress, you could bring Eiserman in at that time 1 year later, either at the end of next season or the season after that, and have him make a bigger impact, be surrounded by more talent, and give the Islanders organization an extra reason for hope by the time they bring their top prospect up to the NHL to play with the big club. So in my mind, the biggest advantage would be to have Cole Eiserman stay in school for at least 1 more year, but ultimately the decision is up to him, his agent, his family, and, maybe the Islanders organization will have a say in there somewhere, but big decision coming, and we will have it covered for you every step of the way right here on the Locked On Islanders podcast. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We saw a vicious headshot against Adam Pelech. The league handed down a suspension as a result. We'll talk about that, how the Islanders should approach the last 2 games. We'll preview tonight's game against Washington. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a player who finished his career on the 93-94 Islanders and has since been an assistant coach in the NHL for many years, although he no longer is. Let's see if you can guess who this native of Ontario is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com. So we all saw the headshot on Sunday afternoon that basically led to the injury to Adam Pelech. And it was delivered by Paul Cotter of the New Jersey Devils. And everydayers may remember, I noted that I did not believe that this was an intentional, attempt to injure on that play. But I also indicated, and I think it was clear by the replay, that this is exactly the kind of play that you want out of the game, that the NHL is trying to legislate out of the game. So as a result, in just a very quick 24-hour turnaround, the NHL suspended Paul Cotter for the final 2 games of the regular season here. So he is suspended for 2 games. So Cotter will not miss any playoff games. And, well, bottom line is, I think this is a justified suspension. This is exactly what the league doesn't want to see. You got to protect the players. It's a headshot. It was right to the jaw. He was bloodied. And, there was a little bit of controversy on the TNT broadcast as to whether or not Cotter could have avoided the hit. I think he could have done more to avoid the hit. Could he have avoided it entirely? Maybe, maybe not. But, the same way you need to control your stick and you're responsible for your stick if it hits someone in the face, if you deliver a shoulder or an elbow to the head, whether it was intended or not, you're responsible for that. And I think the league made the right call. 2 games is not excessive. They're 2 meaningless games at the end of this regular season. The Devils already set in 3rd place in the Metro. They're going to play the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round of the playoffs. So I think this is the right decision by the league. And how often have I said that this year? Not all that often, but I think the league handled this well. Now, the other question is this: what's going to happen with Adam Pelech? And I think this is part of a bigger question that I've been talking about, everydayers will remember, for the last week, let's say, on and off. There is no need whatsoever for Adam Pelech to play in either of these last 2 games for the New York Islanders. He has a history of concussions and head injuries. He just got bloodied and knocked senseless in some ways by this hit. The Islanders will not benefit in any way by winning these 2 games other than what the final standings are going to look like. In fact, if they lose these last 2 games, they have a better chance at the draft lottery. And remember, the Islanders need to finish in 11th from the bottom or worse in order to have even a minute chance of finishing with the number 1 pick in this year's draft. So, to me, caution is the better part of valor under these circumstances. Shut down Adam Pelech for these last 2 games. And I still believe that this team would be better served by resting some veterans. And I would still sit Ilya Sorokin for the last 2 games of this regular season. I would certainly sit Adam Pelech. I could see some guys who are struggling right now on the ice. You sit them and bring up some of these younger guys from Bridgeport, whether it's an Alex Jeffries, an Isaiah George, Matthew Maggio, whoever it is, you got 2 games left. And keep in mind, Bridgeport is only playing on the weekend. So you could call these players up, have them play Tuesday and Thursday for the Islanders, and then send them down for the weekend to finish out their AHL season. It's not something that is going to hurt the AHL team or the players, other than maybe that they're playing a few extra games this week. But to give them a crack, some of them at their first NHL game, it makes sense. The Islanders have more of an incentive not to win these games than to win them, even though you can't admit that publicly. But to me, it would be Marcus Hogberg and maybe Tristan Lennox, each getting 1 start in these final 2 games. You bring up some of those kids, you rest some of the veterans. Guys like Matt Martin, who may be playing his final 2 games in the NHL, I have no problem with him playing. Guys who are playing well or who are hungry, a Mark Gatcomb, for example, no problem with him. Bo Horvat's playing very well. You could leave him in the lineup, but guys who are struggling, guys who are banged up, guys who, just don't need to be in this game, in my mind, it is more logical to rest them and to be a little bit more conservative in your approach. And keep in mind, I'm not saying the Islanders should try to lose this game or any of their remaining 2 games. You go out there once the puck is dropped and you play the best hockey you could play. And if you bring up some of these guys from the AHL and it is their first game in the NHL in their careers, they're going to be enthusiastic. They're going to be physical. They're going to be pumped up to play this game. They may even give you a little extra juice, even if they don't have the experience that some of the guys out there right now do have. So who you put on the ice is one thing. Once the puck drops, you play as well as you can and you play to win. But to me, risking injury on a Sorokin, on a Pelech, on any number of these veteran players doesn't make any sense right now when you're eliminated from the playoffs and you're playing out the string, and you can get a better draft pick by losing these last 2 games. We have got more to get to on today's show. The Washington Capitals will be the visitors for the Islanders' last home game. We'll discuss what it'll take for the Islanders to win this game. We'll have that, plus our Islanders' birthday of the day, coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you could find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who's delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. It'll be the New York Islanders and the Washington Capitals home finale for the Islanders tonight. That game is right now scheduled for 8 o'clock Eastern time. We shall see how it all plays out. The Capitals kind of locked in right now to first place in the Metro. They have clinched their division title, so they don't have a heck of a lot to play for right now. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But even so, and I'm sure the Capitals will be resting some players, they are not an easy out for the New York Islanders. The Caps are second in the league in goals scored. They're ninth in the league in goals allowed. Their penalty kill is fifth in the league at 82%. The power play only, and I'll put that in air quotes, 13th in the league, 23.3% success rate. And again, this is a team that I think the Islanders want to use as a role model as far as retooling on the fly and getting a quick turnaround. A year ago, the Capitals were the second wild card, the last team to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. This year, they are probably going to have the best record in the conference, and they were the first team in the league to clinch a playoff berth, and they did it in one off season with a few daring but rather effective moves. The line combinations in the last game for the Capitals, and again, they may be resting some players. Pierre-Luc Dubois centers Connor McMichael and Tom Wilson on the top line. Dylan Strome, Alexander Ovechkin, and Anthony Beauvillier, the former Islander, they're the second line. Lars Eller, Andrew Mangiapane, and Ryan Leonard are the third line. And keep your eye on Leonard. He's one of the top prospects in the NHL. Nick Dowd, Brandon Duhaime, and Taylor Radish make up the fourth line. On defense, Jacob Chikrin and Trevor Van Riemsdyk are the top pair. Rasmus Sandin and Matt Roy are the middle pair, and then Dylan McElrath and Martin Verharve are the third pair. The goalies, Charlie Lindgren and Hunter Shepard. And again, Shepard kind of filling in. Logan Thompson listed as day-to-day. Nicholas Backstrom, TJ Oshie, Long Island native Sonny Milano, they're all on IR, and Alexei Protas is listed as day-to-day. I get the feeling guys who are listed as day-to-day probably not going to play in this game. Islanders need to stay out of the penalty box, and they need to play solid team defense. It's the one thing they have not done consistently this year. When they play sound positional defense, when they don't retreat too quickly, and they pick up their players in the neutral zone and don't allow entries with speed, time, and space, they are a much different team to face. So that is the biggest key. And the other thing is this: special teams have got to be better. It's something the Islanders have struggled with all year. And maybe, just maybe, you want to just finish the year on a high note on the power play and on the PK. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 67th birthday of former Islanders center Keith Acton. Acton, originally a sixth-round pick by the Canadiens back in 1978, made his NHL debut in 79-80 for the Habs, later played for the Minnesota North Stars, won a cup with the Oilers in 1988, played for the Flyers, the Capitals, and then finished his NHL career with the Islanders in 1993-94, played in 71 games, 2 goals, 9 points, 50 penalty minutes, and played in all 4 playoff games for the Islanders that year. He did play his 1,000th career NHL game in an Islanders uniform. He finished with 1,023 games, 226 goals, 584 points, and 1,172 penalty minutes. One of his better games as an Islander, November 18th, 1993. Islanders playing the Canadiens at a neutral site game at the Copps Coliseum. Ron Hextall was the goalie for the Islanders. Frederic Chabot, the goalie for Montreal. And in this game, with the Islanders up 2-1 in the third period, our Islanders birthday of the day, Keith Acton scores. Dennis Vasky had the assist. That ends up putting the Islanders up 3-1. They go on to win the game 5-1 over the Canadiens. 34 saves for Ron Hextall. For Keith Acton, our Islanders birthday of the day, he had the goal. He was a +1, and he had 2 shots on goal in this game. Pierre Turgeon had 2 goals and an assist to pace the Islanders offense that day. But Keith Acton, a two-way checking center, he is our Islanders birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who made Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL, both on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a comment, a question, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's always great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. We'll be back tomorrow with our key takeaways from tonight's game against the Capitals. Plus, we'll have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders, and we will be discussing the dubious record that the Bridgeport Islanders set this season as they get ready to close out their campaign. So join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.